First contact in the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the TSV Horizon Seeker, her eyes fixed on the swirling nebula ahead. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the cosmos had to offer. She was wrong. The massive vessel appeared from nowhere, emerging from the purple-tinged gases like a leviathan breaking through ocean waves. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Chen's first officer, Marcus Rodriguez, let out a low whistle. "Mass readings are off the charts, Captain," he reported, his dark eyes scanning the holographic displays. "Conservative estimate puts it at 10,000 metric tons. But there's something else. The energy signature is fluctuating." Chen leaned forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it adjusted to focus on the strange vessel. The implant had been a necessity after a pirate raid 5 years ago, but now it was proving invaluable. The ship's surface seemed to ripple, like mercury under a microscope. "Defensive systems?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "None detected," Rodriguez replied. "But that doesn't mean they're not there. Wait, incoming transmission." The bridge crew fell silent as a strange harmonic tone filled the air. It wasn't sound exactly, more like the feeling of sound, resonating in their bones rather than their ears. Chen's cybernetic eye began translating the complex wave patterns automatically. "Help, help us, we are dying." The message repeated in variations, each one more desperate than the last. Chen straightened her uniform, a habit from her military days she'd never quite shaken. "Any signs of damage or distress?" she asked. Lieutenant Maya Patel, their sensor specialist, spoke up from her station. "No obvious structural damage, Captain. But internal scans are showing massive energy fluctuations. It's like the ship itself is having a seizure." Chen had made first contact with 3 different species during her career. Each time had followed strict protocols, careful diplomatic procedures, and mountains of paperwork. But something about this felt different, more urgent, more real. "Captain," Rodriguez said quietly, "regulations state we should maintain distance and contact Earth Command for instructions." Chen nodded slowly, her cybernetic eye still processing the strange patterns emanating from the alien vessel. "Yes, they do. And if this were a normal situation, that's exactly what we'd do. But tell me, Marcus, does this feel normal to you?" Before he could answer, the alien ship pulsed with a brilliant blue light. The energy wave that followed wasn't harmful, but it carried something with it. Images, emotions, memories. The entire bridge crew gasped as their minds were flooded with fragments of alien thoughts. They saw a civilization of beings composed of energy and matter in equal measure, their ships grown rather than built, a harmonious blend of technology and life. They saw the disaster, a cascade failure in the ship's quantum consciousness matrix, threatening to tear apart the very fabric of their existence. And they saw hope, in the form of human ingenuity and adaptability. "They're not just asking for help," Chen said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They chose us specifically. They'd been watching humanity, studying us. They believe we're the only ones who can save them." Rodriguez gripped his console tightly. How can they be so sure? Chen's organic eye gleamed with determination to match her cybernetic one. "Because humans are the only species they've encountered who thrive on solving the impossible. We're too stubborn to accept no-win scenarios, too creative to be bound by conventional solutions, and too compassionate to ignore a cry for help, even from beings we don't understand." She stood, addressing her crew with the quiet confidence that had earned her command of the Horizon Seeker. "I know what regulations say. I know what the safe choice is. But right now, there are living beings asking for our help. And I don't know about you, but I didn't come to the edge of known space just to play it safe." The crew exchanged glances, years of trust and shared experience speaking volumes in silence. Finally, Rodriguez smiled. "Well, I suppose this is why they call us Seekers. What are your orders, Captain?" Chen activated the ship's general comm system. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for first contact protocols with a twist. Engineering, I want every piece of equipment we have ready for testing. Medical, prepare for potential xenobiology scenarios we've never seen before. Security, stay alert but remember, we're here to help. As her crew sprang into action, Chen studied the massive alien vessel. In all her years of space exploration, she'd learned one truth. The universe's greatest mysteries often came wrapped in its greatest opportunities, and something told her this would prove to be both. Send a response, she ordered. Tell them help is coming. Tell them humanity accepts their challenge. The alien ship pulsed once more, this time with what almost felt like relief. As the Horizon Seeker moved closer to the massive vessel, Chen couldn't help but smile. This was why humanity had reached for the stars, not just to explore, but to connect, to help, to prove that in the vast darkness of space, compassion and courage could light the way forward. The price of trust. The docking procedure was unlike anything in Captain Chen's experience. The alien vessel's hull seemed to breathe, creating an opening that wrapped around the Horizon Seeker's airlock like living tissue. Lieutenant Patel's sensors showed atmospheric conditions matching Earth normal inside. Too perfect to be coincidental. They've been preparing for us, Chen muttered, checking the seal on her encounter suit one final time. Standard protocol demanded full environmental protection, even if sensors suggested it was safe. She'd learned long ago that safe was a relative term in deep space. The boarding party consisted of Chen, Rodriguez, Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Medical, and Chief Engineer Zora Hassan. Each carried specialized equipment designed to interface with unknown technology, though Chen suspected their most valuable tools would be their minds. As they stepped through the airlock, the alien ship's interior defied explanation. Corridors shifted and flowed like liquid metal, yet remained solid under their boots. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along the walls in complex sequences, responding to their presence. Fascinating, Dr. Tanaka breathed, her medical scanner whirring. The entire structure appears to be one interconnected organism. It's not just alive, it's conscious. Chief Hassan ran her hand along a wall, her engineering sensibilities warring with wonder. These patterns, they're not random. It's machine code, but organic, like DNA that rewrites itself in real time. A melodic hum filled the air, and Chen's cybernetic eye began translating again. Welcome, seekers. Follow our path. Time grows short. The corridor ahead shifted, creating a clear direction. Chen noticed how the ship guided them away from certain areas, like a patient steering clear of an injured limb. Whatever was wrong, it was trying to protect them from it. They emerged into a vast chamber that seemed to defy physics. Energy cascaded between crystalline structures, forming complex geometric patterns that Chen's cybernetic eye couldn't fully process. At the chamber's center floated a sphere of pure light, pulsing with a rhythm that matched the ship's vibrations. This is their equivalent of a bridge, Rodriguez realized, studying his readings. Or maybe their brain. Hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. The sphere flickered, and a figure materialized before them. It was humanoid but clearly artificial, its form composed of light and energy rather than matter. When it spoke, its words appeared directly in their minds. "We are the luminary," it said. "We have watched your species grow, adapt, create. You turn weaknesses into strengths. You see limitations as challenges. This is why we chose you." "What happened to your ship?" Chen asked, though she suspected ship was an inadequate term for the living marvel around them. The figure's form rippled with what might have been distress. "We encountered something in the void between galaxies, a quantum anomaly our science could not explain. It infected our core consciousness, corrupting our ability to maintain stable form. We are fragmenting." Dr. Tanaka stepped forward, her medical curiosity piqued. "You're dying." "Yes and no," the luminary responded. "Death as you understand it does not apply to us. but our consciousness is splintering. Soon, we will lose coherence. The knowledge of eons, the memories of our civilization, all will be lost, and we are not the only ones at risk. The chamber's walls shifted, revealing star charts that made Chen's blood run cold. The quantum anomaly was spreading, invisible to conventional sensors, but lethal to any civilization that had achieved quantum consciousness. The luminary weren't just asking for help. They were warning humanity about a threat they couldn't yet detect. Chief Hassan studied the technical data flowing across her tablet. The corruption is following a pattern. It's not random decay. It's more like a virus. Chen finished, her cybernetic eye detecting similarities to computer code she'd encountered before. Someone weaponized quantum physics. The luminary's form brightened. Yes, this is why we need you. Your species understands conflict, warfare, the corruption of systems. You have fought viruses both organic and digital. We have not faced such challenges in millennia. We have forgotten how. Rodriguez frowned. You're saying you need our expertise in warfare, our knowledge of how to fight. We need your adaptability, the luminary corrected. Your creativity in crisis, your ability to see solutions where we see only problems. But most importantly, we need your courage to face that which we do not understand. Chen was about to respond when alarms blared throughout the ship. The luminary's form flickered violently, its next words filled with urgent fear. The corruption spreads faster than predicted. Our containment fails. You must help us now, or all is lost. But know this, what we ask will put your crew at risk. The price of failure is not just our extinction, but potentially the infection of your own quantum technology. Are you willing to pay such a price? The chamber trembled as energy patterns began to break down. Chen looked at her team, saw the determination in their eyes. This was why humanity had reached for the stars, not just to explore, but to help, to solve, to face the unknown with courage and ingenuity. Tell us what you need, Chen said, her voice steady despite the chaos building around them. And let's show you what humanity does best. The luminary's form stabilized briefly, radiating what felt like hope. But as they prepared to explain further, a massive surge of energy ripped through the chamber. The corruption was spreading faster than anyone had predicted, and time was running out. Chen realized they were about to discover exactly how much they were willing to risk for a species they'd just met. But then, that was another thing humans were good at, making impossible decisions when the fate of others hung in the balance. Echoes of humanity. The energy surge tore through the chamber like lightning, forcing the human crew to their knees. Chief Hassan's engineering displays flashed with warnings as quantum fluctuations threatened to overwhelm their equipment. Through the chaos, Captain Chen's cybernetic eye captured something remarkable. Patterns in the corruption, sequences that shouldn't exist in random decay. It's not just spreading, she realized, her augmented vision processing the data streams. It's adapting, learning. Dr. Tanaka's medical scanner beeped urgently. Captain, the ship's conscious systems are showing signs similar to human neural degradation, like a brain suffering from a cascading seizure. The luminary's form stabilized enough to communicate, though their voice in the crew's minds was weaker now. Our attempts to fight the corruption only make it stronger. It uses our own defensive algorithms against us. We cannot think our way free of this trap. Chen watched as the living walls of the ship trembled, patches of darkness spreading like gangrene through their crystalline structure. The corruption was beautiful in its way, fractals of entropy spreading with mathematical precision. Her cybernetic eye recorded everything, and something about the patterns nagged at her memory. Chief Hassan, she called out, does this remind you of anything? The engineer was already typing furiously on her tablet, comparing the corruption's spread to known phenomena. Yes, it's similar to the Kaiser virus from the neural net wars, a self-evolving code that turned our own quantum computers against us. The luminary's form pulsed with interest. You have faced such an attack before. Not exactly like this, Hassan replied, But humanity learned the hard way that sometimes the most sophisticated systems are vulnerable to the simplest solutions. When the Kaiser virus infected Earth's quantum computing network, we couldn't fight it with better algorithms or stronger firewalls. Rodriguez picked up the thread, remembering his military history. We beat it by going analog. Sometimes, the only way to win is to change the rules of the game entirely. The chamber shuddered again as another wave of corruption spread through the ship's systems. The luminary's form flickered dangerously. We do not understand. Our consciousness cannot simply go analog. We are quantum beings. Maybe not entirely, Dr. Tanaka interjected, studying her medical readings. Your ship's basic life support systems, temperature regulation, atmospheric pressure, structural integrity, they're managed by simpler subroutines, aren't they? More like autonomous reflexes than conscious thought. The luminary's form brightened slightly. Yes, basic functions operate on. I believe you would call it classical computing principles. They are too primitive to be affected by the quantum corruption. Chen's organic eye widened as inspiration struck. Then that's our way in. We don't try to cure the quantum corruption directly. Instead, we use your ship's basic systems to create a kind of immune response. Fight complexity with simplicity. It would be like inducing a fever to fight an infection, Tanaka added, excitement building in her voice. We use the ship's primitive systems to create an environment hostile to the corruption spread. Chief Hassan was already running calculations. We could modify our own shielding technology. It's based on simple electromagnetic principles. If we can adapt it to work with the ship's basic systems, we might be able to create safe zones where the corruption can't spread. The luminary's form wavered uncertainly. What you suggest is unprecedented. To deliberately restrict our quantum capabilities, to rely on primitive systems, it goes against everything we are. Sometimes survival means being willing to take a step backward to move forward. Chen said softly. Humanity learned that lesson many times. Progress isn't always a straight line. Another surge of corruption ripped through the chamber, larger than before. The luminary's form split into multiple fragments, their voice becoming desperate in the crew's minds. We are running out of options. The corruption reaches our core memory systems. Soon, all that we are, all that we have learned across eons will be lost. Chen stood straight, decision made. Then we act now. Chief Hassan, start modifying our shield generators. Dr. Tanaka, I need you to help the luminary identify their most basic autonomous systems. Rodriguez, coordinate with the Horizon Seeker. We'll need every spare power cell we've got. As her crew rushed to their tasks, Chen addressed the fragmenting form of the luminary. I need you to trust us. What we're attempting goes against your nature, your entire evolution as a species. It will be difficult. It will be frightening. But sometimes the greatest acts of progress come from being willing to embrace the primitive within us. The luminary's fragments slowly merged back into a single weakened form. We chose well in calling to you, Captain Chen. Even now, facing the death of our consciousness, you show us new ways of thinking. That's the thing about humans, Chen replied, her cybernetic eye already mapping out power distribution paths through the ship's basic systems. We never forgot our primitive roots. We carry them with us into the stars, not as a weakness, but as a reminder that sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. The chamber's walls pulsed with a new pattern, not the complex quantum harmonies of before, but something simpler, more rhythmic. Like a heartbeat, like survival stripped down to its most basic form. They had a plan now, but implementing it would require something more than just technical skill or scientific knowledge. It would require the luminary to trust in human intuition, to believe that stepping backward could be the key to moving forward. As Chen watched her crew begin their work, she couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The luminary had called to humanity because of their adaptability, their problem-solving skills. But in the end, it might be humanity's connection to their primitive past that would save this advanced civilization's future. Breaking point. Time became a blur of desperate activity as the human crew raced to implement their plan. Captain Chen's cybernetic eye tracked multiple streams of data, while her organic one watched her crew work with practiced efficiency. Chief Hassan had transformed a corner of the vast chamber into a makeshift engineering bay. Cannibalized parts from their emergency gear scattered around her like fallen stars. "The shield modifications are ready," Hassan reported, wiping sweat from her brow. "But Captain, converting the ship's basic systems into a quantum firewall. It's like trying to build a dam with pebbles. One mistake and the corruption could overwhelm everything." The luminaries' form had degraded further, now barely maintaining cohesion. Their voice in the crew's minds was fragmented, like a radio signal breaking up. "Our core consciousness, splintering. Memory archives, failing. Cannot maintain. Stay with us," Chen commanded, her voice carrying the weight of authority that had seen her crew through countless crises. "Dr. Tanaka, status." The doctor's fingers flew across her medical interface, which she'd jury-rigged to interface with the ship's autonomous systems. "I've mapped the equivalent of their autonomic nervous system. Basic life support, structural integrity, thermal regulation. It's all running on classical algorithms, just as we thought. But timing will be critical. If we don't synchronize the shield pulses perfectly with their systemic functions, we'll only get one shot at this." Rodriguez finished, coordinating with the Horizon Seeker's crew to channel additional power to their shield generators. Chen studied the corruption spread through her augmented vision. The quantum virus had consumed nearly 60% of the ship's conscious systems, but it followed patterns. Like all viruses, it had rules it couldn't break. Understanding bloomed in her mind as she watched the fractal patterns of destruction spread. "Look at this," she called her crew over, projecting what her cybernetic eye saw onto Hassan's engineering display. "The corruption doesn't spread randomly. It follows the ship's neural pathways, using their own quantum networks against them. But between those networks, dead zones," Hassan breathed, understanding dawning. "Spaces where classical computing still dominates. We don't need to build a perfect firewall. We just need to expand those zones, force the corruption to overextend itself." A violent tremor rocked the chamber as another section of the ship's consciousness fell to the corruption. The luminaries' form split into dozens of fragments, each one crying out in silent agony. Warning signals blared from every piece of equipment the crew had brought. "We're running out of time," Rodriguez shouted over the chaos. "The ship's quantum core is approaching critical breakdown." Chen made her decision. "Chief Hassan, start the shield pulse sequence. Dr. Tanaka, trigger the systemic reset of all basic functions on my mark. Rodriguez, have the Horizon Seeker ready to pump every joule of power they can spare into our generators." She turned to address the scattered fragments of the luminary. "What we're about to do will feel like dying to you. Your quantum consciousness will be forced into dormancy as we elevate your basic systems to fight the corruption. You'll need to trust us completely." The fragments swirled in agitation. "To lose our consciousness, to become primitive, the fear." "Fear is primitive too," Chen said softly. "But so is survival. Sometimes we need to embrace our most basic instincts to preserve what matters most. Your memories, your knowledge, they'll still be there when we restore your quantum systems. But first, you need to let go." For a moment that felt like eternity, the fragments hung in space, trembling with indecision. Then, slowly, they began to merge back together. Not into their usual coherent form, but into something simpler, more primal. The ship's walls pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat finding its natural pace. "Now," Chen ordered. Hassan activated the modified shields, creating pulses of classical energy that resonated with the ship's basic systems. Tanaka triggered the systemic reset, forcing every autonomous function into a synchronized pattern. Rodriguez channeled power from the Horizon Seeker, pushing their generators past safety limits. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The chamber filled with screaming harmonics as quantum systems crashed against classical barriers. The corruption spread accelerated, desperately seeking new pathways, only to find itself trapped in ever-shrinking pockets of quantum space. Warning klaxons blared as power surges threatened to overwhelm their equipment. "The shields are failing," Hassan shouted, her hands flying over her controls. "We can't contain the quantum backlash." Chen's cybernetic eye tracked the cascade of failures, calculating possibilities faster than human consciousness could process. They were missing something, some crucial element that could tip the balance. Then she saw it, a pattern within patterns, a rhythm underlying everything. "The corruption spreads like a virus," she said, clarity striking like lightning. "But it's not just attacking the ship's quantum systems. It's trying to preserve itself. It follows rules, natural laws. And natural laws apply to everything, even quantum physics." Her hands flew to her temple, disconnecting her cybernetic eye's safety protocols. "I'm going to link directly with the shield network. My eye's quantum processors can help synchronize the pulses with the corruption's own patterns." "Captain." "No." Rodriguez grabbed her arm. "The feedback could fry your neural implants. You could die." Chen smiled grimly. "Sometimes leadership means being willing to take the risks we ask others to take." She looked at each of her crew members in turn. "Whatever happens, I want you to know, you've made humanity proud today." Before anyone could stop her, she connected her cybernetic interface directly to Hassan's shield controls. Pain exploded behind her eyes as quantum data flooded her neural pathways. But through the agony, she could see it all so clearly. The corruption's patterns, the ship's primitive rhythms, the pulse of the shields. Like a conductor hearing every instrument in a vast orchestra, she began to draw them together into a single, harmonious purpose. The chamber filled with light as human technology and alien biology found a common language in the most basic laws of existence. The corruption, trapped between quantum and classical states, began to collapse in on itself. And through it all, Captain Sarah Chen stood at the center of the storm, her humanity bridging the gap between what was and what could be. Legacy of Two Worlds. The universe seemed to hold its breath as quantum and classical forces clashed within the alien vessel. Captain Chen stood at the eye of the storm, her consciousness stretched between human and alien understanding. Through her cybernetic interface, she could see everything. The corruption's desperate attempts to spread, the ship's primitive systems rising to defend themselves, and the delicate balance between order and chaos. Dr. Tanaka's medical scanner screamed warnings as Chen's neural readings spiked beyond safe levels. "Her synaptic patterns are destabilizing. We need to disconnect her now." "Wait." Chief Hassan's eyes were fixed on her engineering displays. "The quantum corruption, it's starting to collapse. Whatever she's doing, it's working." Through the haze of pain and overwhelming data, Chen found a truth that transcended both human and luminary understanding. The corruption wasn't just a virus to be fought. It was an imbalance to be corrected. Every surge of quantum chaos could be met with classical order, every complex pattern answered with simple rhythm. Her organic eye wept tears of blood, but her cybernetic one saw with perfect clarity. Using the ship's most basic systems as anchors, she began to weave a new kind of defense. Not a wall between quantum and classical computing, but a dance between them, complex and simple, advanced and primitive, each supporting the other in eternal balance. The luminary's consciousness, reduced to its most fundamental state, recognized the pattern. Their voice in Chen's mind was no longer the sophisticated harmony of before, but something older, deeper, like the first stirrings of awareness in primordial seas. "We understand now," they whispered. "The corruption sought to destroy us by attacking our complexity, but it could not touch our simplest selves. In running from our primitive origins, we lost part of our strength." The chamber filled with light as the shield network synchronized perfectly with the ship's autonomous systems. The corruption, caught between quantum and classical states, began to fold in on itself like a star collapsing into a singularity. Where there had been chaos, order emerged, not the rigid perfection the luminary had sought, but a natural harmony between complexity and simplicity. Rodriguez caught Chen as she staggered, blood trickling from her organic eye. "Easy, Captain. You did it. The corruption is being contained and eliminated." Dr. Tanaka rushed forward with her medical kit, but Chen waved her off, her voice rough but determined. "The ship. Are they?" The answer came as the chamber around them transformed. The walls rippled with new patterns, not the purely quantum configurations of before, nor just the simple rhythms of basic systems. Instead, they pulsed with both, creating something entirely new. The luminaries' form reappeared, but changed. Their energy construct now contained elements of both quantum complexity and classical simplicity, each strengthening the other. "We are reborn," they announced, their voice carrying both ancient wisdom and new understanding. "You have shown us a truth we had forgotten. Evolution is not just about advancing to new heights, it is about remembering where we came from and carrying those lessons forward." Chief Hassan studied her readings with amazement. The ship's quantum systems are reactivating, but differently. They're not fighting against the classical architecture anymore. They're working with it. It's like they've created a whole new computing paradigm. "Not new," Chen corrected, standing straighter despite her exhaustion. "Ancient, as old as life itself. The dance between complexity and simplicity, between growth and stability. We just helped them remember it." The luminary's form shifted, creating a display of the quantum anomaly spread through space. But now, instead of showing devastation, it showed hope. The new hybrid architecture they had discovered wouldn't just protect them. It could be shared with other quantum-based civilizations, helping them avoid the same crisis. "You have given us more than survival," the luminary said. "You have given us evolution. A new way forward that honors both what we were and what we can become. How can we repay such a debt?" Chen smiled, her organic and cybernetic eyes working in perfect harmony once again. "Share what you've learned. Not just about quantum computing or classical systems, but about balance. About remembering that sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. About the strength that comes from embracing all parts of ourselves. Primitive and advanced, simple and complex." The chamber hummed with power as the ship's systems settled into their new configuration. The luminary's form stabilized, stronger than ever before. "We will share this wisdom, Captain Chen, and we will tell all who will listen about humanity. The species that taught us that true advancement means never forgetting where you came from." As the Horizon Seeker's crew prepared to return to their ship, Chen looked back at the transformed alien vessel. Her cybernetic eye could still see the quantum dance of its systems, now moving in perfect harmony with classical physics. It was beautiful, not despite its combination of primitive and advanced technology, but because of it. "You know," she said to her crew, "I think we learned as much from them as they did from us. About balance, about evolution, about the importance of keeping our roots even as we reach for the stars." The luminary's final message echoed in their minds as they departed. "You came to us as saviors, but leave as teachers. Remember this day, for it marks not just our transformation, but a new chapter in the story of both our species, a story of balance, of wisdom, and of the eternal dance between what was and what can be." As the Horizon Seeker broke away from the alien vessel, its crew watched in awe as the massive ship pulsed with new life and purpose. They had come expecting to find an advanced civilization in need of help. Instead, they had helped forge a new path forward, one that proved that sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in remembering where you came from, even as you journey toward where you hope to be.